Excited to facilitate this session for everyone, but before we start, we do have a few housekeeping items to review. You can access the presenter handouts for this session, the presenter bio, and the conference schedule on the Patent website, and the link is provided in the chat. Just as a reminder, this session will be 75 minutes in length, which will include a question and answer period at the end. This session will be recorded and will be available for 30 days on the Sched platform. To access closed captioning, click on the icon CC Live Transcript on the Zoom panel below. If you experience technical difficulties, please go to the Technical Support Guides area above the schedule on the Zoom Symposium page. Please keep your video feature off and stay muted until you are asked to participate within this session. And we would love for you to tweet out to share about what you are learning from the symposium, and the hashtag for the symposium is PatentLit 2022. And now we would like to introduce you to Christine Seppi, Denise Morelli, and Maria Palselli.
Hello, we're very excited to be here. We're all from the International Dyslexia Association, the Pennsylvania branch, and here to give you a little taste of experienced dyslexia assimilation. If we were doing the entire simulation, it would take us over 2 hours, and we would have you divided into small groups so that you could definitely participate. So you will get a taste of it today. See if I can get my screen to advance. So to participate, the way we're doing it today, you're going to need a few sheets of paper, a pen or pencil, and a willingness to follow directions. And some of those directions may be things that you'd rather not do, but if you want to get the sense of the simulation, we'll need you to follow directions. So you should get those things now while we're doing the introductions. So here to present, I'm Christine Seppi. I am the president of the board for the Pennsylvania branch of the International Dyslexia Association. We go by PBIDA. I'm also a certified Orton-Gillingham reading therapist. And I'm joined by Maria Palselli, who is the CEO of Provident Charter School for Children with Dyslexia in Pittsburgh. It's the only charter school specifically for kids with language-based learning disabilities in the state, and one of the few in the country. She is also a certified Orton-Gillingham trainer and a member of my board. Dr. Denise Morelli is retired as the program director for the Allegheny Intermediate Unit. She's a former reading specialist and supervisor. She's also taught in a variety of situations before she became the director at the Intermediate Unit. In addition, she's an adult with dyslexia, and she's a former member of our board. Just to give you a brief information about who we are as a branch, we are responsible for serving the states of Pennsylvania and Delaware. And our mission is to help families become advocates for individuals with dyslexia by giving them the information they need, and to equip educators with research-based information on the most effective ways to teach students with dyslexia. We provide email and phone support for people who have questions. We try to give referrals when people are needing tutors or screening. Other information that we can give. There are print materials that can be downloaded from our website. We have this wonderful experienced dyslexia simulation, which helps people to understand what it feels like to be someone with dyslexia. We have a support group for families and adults. We have an annual conference every year in the fall, and this year our conference is going to be on October 1st. We're kicking off Dyslexia Awareness Month, and it will be at Arcadia University. It will be in person and also streamed. We also do other workshops and presentations and training opportunities throughout the year. So our last support group of the school year, if somebody's interested, is tomorrow evening. It is online, always on the third Thursday of the month between September and June. And you can find information on our website, which is just pbida.org, so it's pretty easy. We also have a summer book study coming up. There's still a few spaces left in this study, but not very many. We're going to be working through the book From Talking to Writing, Strategies for Supporting Narrative and Expository Writing. And we're very excited that Charles Haynes, one of the authors, will be joining us for the final meeting to give more information and to answer questions. Please save the date for that conference that I mentioned before. Our theme this year is connecting social and emotional learning with literacy. We see the social and emotional learning issue always as important, but having become more complex during the COVID pandemic and the way that it has affected all children, but specifically children with learning issues. So before we get any further, I would like to know just a little bit about how much you already know. So we have a little poll here. If you can answer that poll, that would be really great. Okay, that is really helpful for us to know. It looks like we have a few people who probably know as much as I do, and others of you that know some. And we hope by the end of this that you will have more of a feeling about dyslexia and some greater understanding of what it feels like to be. Oh, did I share those results? Sorry. Now everybody can see it. Had to click that at the bottom. All right. Thank you. So we're going to, oops, wrong way. Nope, nope. See if I can get back here. All right, we're going to start with a definition of dyslexia. It is a cluster of symptoms that result in people having difficulties with language skills, particularly reading. It is neurological in origin. That means that it is in the brain and that people are born with it. It is not something that someone acquires. It is not something that actually goes away. It is considered a learning disability because it makes it difficult to succeed in school where reading is so important. And a diagnosis of dyslexia qualifies students for extra support and accommodations, may qualify a student for special education. It influences as many as 1 in 5 people. As I said, it's a genetic difference in an individual's ability to learn and process information. Dyslexic individuals have differing abilities. They have strengths in creative problem-solving, communication skills, but they have challenges with reading, spelling, memorizing facts, writing, other things that involve language. Sally Shaywitz, who's one of the experts, talks about dyslexia being an issue and having a sea of strengths within this area that's an issue. And one of the things that happens with dyslexia is that a person with dyslexia, if you give them a standardized test, will have very uneven results. They may score very high in certain areas and then very low in other areas. And so a profile that is unusual. Because of the issues in reading, traditional benchmarking is a real disadvantage. You know, all our tests are based on reading for the most part. Dyslexia is frequently misunderstood. And so I'd like you to test yourself and see if you have any of these misconceptions. A couple of them we should have already taken care of. So there's no such thing. There are people who say this. There are professors who preach this. But actually, functional MRIs have scientifically proven that people with dyslexia use a different brain pattern than people without dyslexia when they are trying to read and do various other activities. It's very rare. Well, actually, 1 in 5 is not very rare. It's a developmental delay. that children can outgrow. This is what a lot of people have taught in the past, but it is not a developmental delay. It is something neurological, and you can't outgrow it naturally. There has been the assumption that children can't be diagnosed until, it used to be said, 3rd grade. If you wait until 3rd grade for diagnosis, children are 2 to 3 years behind, and it's hard to catch up. Most children can actually be diagnosed in preschool or kindergarten, and almost everyone can be diagnosed by the end of 1st grade. There are people who say that dyslexia is a visual problem, that it can be solved by using glasses or eye exercises or colored screens. It is not a visual problem. Now, it's possible somebody has a visual problem and that should be dealt with, but that is not dyslexia, and dyslexia cannot be cured by dealing with visual exercises. People with dyslexia see backwards is often talked about. This is common because people with dyslexia often do reverse things, but those reversals are not because they are seeing backwards, it's because they're not remembering which way something goes. There's an assumption that children who are struggling with reading are less intelligent than those who learn to read quickly. This is not true. People with dyslexia are of average to above average intelligence. There are many people who are highly gifted who are dyslexic, and they still struggle to read. But once they learn to read, then they can use that intelligence. Repeating a grade is often recommended for a child who's behind in reading. Repeating a grade should be done very carefully because there are pretty strong social and emotional problems that can occur from repeating a grade. And repeating a grade and just doing the same thing that didn't work over again doesn't really help. There may, however, be situations in which that is the right answer, so it should be taken very carefully and considering all factors. Some statistics. We already said that it affects approximately 20% of the population. It also represents 80 to 90% of all learning disabilities. It's the most common learning disability. There are more than 40 million people in the United States with dyslexia, and only about 2 million have been diagnosed. We would like to see better diagnosis happening, especially for young children, so that they don't get caught in not knowing how to read. It does run in families. Parents with dyslexia are more likely to have dyslexic children, but it doesn't run necessarily straight through a family. I have a son with dyslexia. Neither my husband or I are dyslexic, but it turns out one of my husband's cousins is dyslexic. And I have both two nephews who are dyslexic in 2 different families. Children with learning disabilities are much more likely to drop out of school. The suicide rate is higher and more likely to become juvenile offenders. And as you'll notice, 60% of prison inmates are functionally illiterate. Now, not all of those juvenile offenders and prison inmates are dyslexic, but all of them are struggling with reading. And if we had programs in school that dealt with children with dyslexia, you would also catch these children who have other issues in learning to read. Let's just look really briefly at how the brain reads. In a typical brain, this area called Broca's area is the area where we understand language. That's where we know what a word means. Very important. This area with the A here, Wernicke's area, is the area that is used for careful word analysis and decoding. The area here at the back of the brain is the area where we keep words that have become automatic. I would assume that none of you needed to sound out any of the words in how the brain reads. All of those are down in your automatic reading. On the other hand, you might have had to sound out these words at the bottom and use that A area. The better we learn to read, the more we rely on this area at the back because more things are in our automatic area. Language is automatic for people who are human. We all are primed to learn language from the moment we're born, but reading doesn't have any specific genes, and each brain has to figure out how to do it. So look at the difference. This again is that brain we saw before with those 3 areas that are used for reading. The dyslexic brain is trying to do it all from this area at the front and also a couple places on the right side of the brain. With the proper training, they can activate these areas at the back, but it is slower. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the reading rope. If you're not, you should sign up for one of the sessions about the reading rope at this patent symposium. They have wonderful information. The reading rope talks about 2 main areas that are responsible for skilled reading: word recognition and language comprehension. I just wanted you to know that it's this word recognition area that is difficult for people with dyslexia. They don't actually have any problem in learning the areas up in the language comprehension, except that if you don't get this word recognition part, you're not reading very much, and then you're not adding to your background knowledge, your vocabulary knowledge, your language structure, and so forth. So this is really key that you get this part and get it early. Challenges with a person with dyslexia might include, in the most severe forms, learning to speak, learning to articulate the sounds properly. That is not true for everyone with dyslexia, definitely. But this learning letters in their sounds is where you start to see it showing up for almost everyone. Some kids will also learn their letters and seem to learn their sounds okay, but when it goes to putting those sounds together to form a word, they can't do it. And then when you're trying to spell, of course, you can't do it. And if you're not working on your reading well, organizing written language becomes hard. And you even find difficulty with spoken language with more complicated ideas and sentences. Memorizing number facts, interestingly enough, and other factual memorization also uses that same part of the back of the brain on the left side where you remember a word automatically. And so that is also hard. So we're going to give you a taste of the dyslexia simulation. It's going to give you a sense of what it feels like to be a child with dyslexia in a regular school setting. I'm going to turn the time now over to Maria Pagliuselli, who's going to take you through the first part of our simulation today.
Thank you, Christine. Okay, let me see if I can get rid of this poll. I would ask, I believe that you have the ability now to unmute, and I would ask that you participate in this station. As Christine described, this would be probably a 2-hour event with multiple station rotations and an invitation to participate, so that rather than listening to people talk and tell you about dyslexia, you would actually experience it. So this is a different kind of situation to do this in a virtual way, but we can still do it. So if you were in my station, which is called Learn to Read, I would welcome you into my classroom and ask you about how excited you are to learn to read our story today. So I am getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know if it's because maybe because we're all unmuted or.
Maria?
Yes.
It may be beneficial if they mute themselves, but if you call upon them, then they unmute.
I agree.
Don't call on me.
you. Well, that's a good preface to the disclaimer. That is how we will proceed. And if in person, everyone has tags, and I do call on you. So if you do not participate, and this time will kind of drag on. And so your participation is requested. Thank you. So we have many boys and girls with us today who are excited to read our story. And we have practiced some vocabulary words, some sight words. We've talked about everything. Why can't I? There we go. Everything we need to know about wizards and elves in anticipating of reading this story today. So Emily, and there may be more Emilys. Emily, if you could unmute and read these words for me, nice and loud.
I'm not sure which Emily you mean, but I can take the fall for an Emily.
Perfect. Any Emily is good.
Okay. So we have wizard, elves, and books.
Thank you, Emily. Good job reading those words. There are those little elves. They're so cute, and we talked all about them. And remember that when your friends are reading, please don't interrupt them unless maybe we ask for some help. And please, follow along with your finger and use the strategies that we work all the time, sounding words out and reading with expression. So how about Jennifer? Why don't you have a turn this page, please?
Are you in all these books? You are, not sure, busy. You are busy. Not sure about that one.
Oh, sound that one out.
Oh, I don't know.
Any friend can help her?
Elves.
Elves, good, that's right. Good job, and I like, Jennifer, how you read this fluently. So our reading is supposed to sound like we talk. And so there's a question mark there. Are you in all these books? Your voice went up. Good reading. All right, how about Olivia? Next page.
We are.
You with us, Olivia? Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yep, you're correct.
I don't know that one. We are something else.
Yes, you do,
Busy.
Olivia. You're a good reader. Yes, we are.
in. Not sure about that one.
Oh, that's one of our sight words. Whoop, did I skipped the page. We are in. Anyone help her?
All.
All.
All. Don't know that.
These books.
Mhm. We are in all these books. Yes. Oh, Olivia, you may need to practice some of our sight words. Sandy, how about the next page?
Do you like? I have no idea.
Oh, you do know
Books.
these words, Sandy. You do. You're a good reader.
Do you like these books?
Oh, we want to read the words the author wrote, right? All these books. Keep going.
Do you like being in them all?
Good. Now, Sandy, I want you to read that like you're talking with fluency and prosody there. Read that last one again, please.
Do you like being in them all?
There you. Thank you. Look how cute those little elves are. Can you read that page for me? Marissa, you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, that's great. Thank you.
Look.
Oh, Marissa, you're one of our
Oh.
confidently wrong friends. No, there's our sight word.
Oh,
I do. Our sight word do.
I do.
Good.
We all like, I think it's like
We all like
these
being.
being these.
Mhm.
I don't remember.
We all like being in them. They're happy about being them. Good. Let me
Okay.
switch here. Okay. This guy does not look happy though. Judith, why don't you read this page for us?
I am not. I forgot this one already.
Like.
Like.
Yep.
I am not like the other. Else.
Mhm.
I don't like others in
I don't like being
in. Oh my gosh, I cannot do the rest.
These books.
in these books. Oh, Judith, that's all right. We'll keep practicing. Next page. What's this wizard saying now? Laura? Laura, you with us?
Yes, you don't like being
Mhm. You don't like
in-
being?
something with a T.
Being
These.
these
Books.
books. Yes.
Why not?
Why not? Good. Oh, friends, these are our sight words. Why are we having trouble? On page 8, Amy.
Okay, I don't.
No, that's am.
I am the giant in something, the books,
All the books.
all
Mhm.
of the books, but I don't, whoops,
Sorry.
but I don't like being no, but I don't, but I don't like being a giant.
There you go. Good job. You're a good reader. Good. And the next one, Sherry. 2 questions.
See, that's a question. Why don't you?
Oh, well, right. We want to stop at the punctuation. Why?
Why?
Why
Don't
you
Like.
giants?
you like giants? He asks. This is our last page. How about Nicole?
I like giants, but I don't. I'm not sure.
Oh, you do know this word, Nicole. You can sound this out.
It's misspelled.
Oh, okay, but I don't like. Ladders.
Books.
Good
Book.
try. Anyone, does anyone? This is always, it's always interesting.
Wizards.
Heights.
No.
Books.
Stilts. Yeah, someone got it. Stilts.
Stair. A stair.
So we're still in, I'm gonna say, stay still in, oh my, simulation mode here for a few minutes. So boys and girls, that was our story about elves and wizards, and oftentimes stories have a problem. Can anyone tell me what the problem was in this story? Anyone?
The one elf didn't like being a giant because he was afraid of heights, because he didn't want to be on the stilts.
Okay. Oh my, you read a lot into that.
I was
Go ahead.
I was so busy trying to figure out the decoding that I have no idea what the story was about.
Sure, we'll talk about that in a moment. Yeah, so typically in our group simulation, we'll ask, who were the characters and what was the problem? Was it solved? And yes, that's what, people generally, even before trying to answer the questions, realize that is the case. So this simulation, oh, and I skipped the last slide. I could go back to it and show you. Can I still share? I can, what it simulates. How did I do that? I left the last slide, but if you already haven't figured it out, it simulates trying to decode. That's the end. And so the Elves and Wizards station simulates how difficult decoding is for students who have dyslexia. They have to remember and you in the simulation have to remember an association between symbols and their sounds. And so even when students who have dyslexia master the code of English and are proficient and accurate decoders, the ability to do so effortlessly and fluently often remains difficult, challenging. And so we'll see that even in this simulation with adults, that they're, figuring out the code, but it still is slow and painful, and words that, you saw and read multiple times on each page are still difficult. Any standout comments or observations about Learn to Read?
I found that interesting, and I also found myself being one of those students that knows the words, yet impatient with the other kids who don't know, the word that I already know, and I finished reading a long time ago, and now I'm bored.
Sure.
I got very anxious, hoping that you weren't going to call on me because I didn't know what the words were. I couldn't figure them out. So I just can sense what students would feel like if they don't know the words, like the anxiety waiting to be called on or waiting not to be called on.
Absolutely. And it's, I'm glad, I don't want to say I'm glad you felt anxious, whoever shared, but part of the impact of the simulation is the collective, feeling of that going through 6 stations in a very physical way, because if we were together, I would have you grouped facing each other and I would be hovering over you. And so there's a, this kind of feeling of like, wow, I'm really put on the spot. And when I'm not proficient.
I love the comment in the one. There are a number of comments in the chat, and one of them hasn't been said by anybody, and that's, I was ready to make something silly up for make everyone laugh and irritate the teacher. And yes, there are students who definitely become the class clown in order to deal with the fact that reading is difficult, and it's better to be thought as somebody who acts out than to be thought as somebody who's dumb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of the things that I'm reading as well are what we hear and discuss. Yeah. Thank you all for being such willing participants. And Christine, this will now go to Denise,
No, to me,
to you, excuse
and
me.
then to Denise.
There
Trying
we
to
go.
trying to break up when they have to listen to me. So they get. So I'm going to give you a little experience with arithmetic now. And it's going to be simple arithmetic, so you don't need to have any fear like you did with the reading that you won't know how to do the problems. And you are going to need your paper and pencil for this. And so the directions here are that I would suggest that you number your paper from 1 to 10. We're going to do a series of short arithmetic problems. And you will be able to, if you have 1 to 10 there, you'll be able to quickly answer 10 and then answer another 10. And that should work well. Okay. Now, when we do this, the difference that we're going to do is that we are going to make it so that although you know how to do arithmetic, you may not have automaticity of your addition or subtraction facts. And so in these problems that you will see, at least one of the numbers is substituted by a letter, and that letter stands for its position in the alphabet. So A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, all the way to Z is 26. So if you saw, for example, C plus E, the answer to that would be 8 because C is the 3rd letter and E is the 5th letter. Hopefully everybody understands how that works. Normally we would give you a minute and we would give you 20 problems, which is pretty common in an elementary school to be expected to do 20 problems in a minute. So I'm going to give you 10 problems and I'm going to give you 35 seconds because this is new. Okay, are you ready? Go. Okay. Okay, everybody stop and let's just check. If we were doing this in the group, we'd have you exchange papers so that you had to get that feeling of somebody else seeing how you did. So, oh, don't want that. Okay, let's just quickly check how you did, all right? We've got a poll here you can answer. Okay, we need to go to poll 2. Okay, please answer how many you got right. Okay, and in the regular simulation, I would tell you how disappointed I was because we have been working very hard on our math facts, and I expected you to be able to do much better than this. Let's see if you can do better with subtraction. Are you ready to go again? No, it's not wanting to move. Shouldn't be at last check, sorry. There, okay, go. Okay, let's check this one. And let's do a little poll again. Okay, some of you did better on subtraction. Now, I hope you're remembering that you're not to write anything on your paper except the answer. Any of you that have written the alphabet on your paper are cheating. Just so you know. But you've practiced now the addition and subtraction. Let's see how you do with a mixed group. Okay, and 35 seconds again. No, we don't need the poll up. Starting now. Go. Okay, let's stop and check this one. Get it to right. Okay, now, often for students who have difficulty, we want to find out, do they know the concept or do they know automaticity? Let's see what happens if we give you a calculator and the accommodation of extra time. You now have 50 seconds for this. Try it again. Okay, stop. There's the end. And let's check this one more time. Okay. I'd like you to check this and I'd like you to pay attention to how many more you got this time when you had the accommodations than the first time that you did this mixed session with addition and subtraction. And let's do a poll again. So how many more did you get right this time? You're going to have to subtract. All right. Everybody did better this time. Now, I have a couple questions for you. Did you actually know how to add or subtract better the second time?
No.
No. So this simulation shows you the difficulty that students with dyslexia often have with timed arithmetic tests. People with dyslexia have difficulty memorizing math facts, and they may never achieve real speed in performing arithmetic problems. But you all knew how to add and subtract. I'm curious to know, when we did the mixed one, did anybody find when they were checking that they had added where they should have subtracted, or subtracted where they should have added? Often when people get nervous about the time, they lose track of the of paying attention to the symbol. And so it's very important as teachers, there's one, that we think about what we're testing when we test. Do you want to know if a student understands the concepts of addition and subtraction, but what you're testing is speed, not understanding? If a student knows how to add and subtract, but isn't fast, they can go ahead with learning the next concept. If a student doesn't understand the concept, that's a much more serious problem. And for many, kids might be kept back in a lower level math class than they need to be because they're not fast, but they have the concepts. I know for my dyslexic son, he became much happier when he reached calculus, because nobody expects you to do calculus in your head. And so, and he is now a data scientist, and he works with statistics all the time. But if you say to him, what is 7 plus 5? He probably pauses longer than I do before he can say 12, because he has to think about it a little bit. Where else do you think we need to watch that we might be testing other elements besides the knowledge of a subject? Any suggestions? What happens when you have a social studies test that is written? A science test that is written? How much of what you're testing is the knowledge of the subject, and how much of what you're testing is somebody's ability to read accurately? And so we need to be aware all the time of what we're testing. And remember that being fair is giving people what they need to be successful, not giving everybody the same thing. All right, I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to turn the time over to Denise Morelli, who's going to give you one more simulation.
Thank you.
And I think we have about 10 minutes for this, Denise. Max.
And what? Okay, 1 second here.
That would be perfect, Christine.
Oh, we've got a little more after the 10 minutes, unfortunately. So we'll be as fast as we can.
That's okay. I also am making a document with all the questions coming in. So if we don't get to those and you want to follow up after, we can do that, whatever works.
Okay.
Okay, let me stop the share and see what is going on here.
Is the share not working?
It
showed
was,
up for
you
me?
did have it up, Denise. It was there.
Oh, it was?
It
But don't,
was.
but
You just
cut it
turned it
short.
off.
Okay, Christine.
It's there.
Is it there? I'm not
Yes.
seeing. Okay.
It's just small. It shows up small screen on mine. Not sure if that's because my view feature.
We'll go forward.
It's
Hopefully.
showing it clear on ours. I mean, full screen.
Good. I see it now clear too. We're good.
Okay, so welcome class, and I would like you to raise the hand that you write with. Great. You will not be using that hand today during these activities. Today, you're going to use the other hand, your non-dominant hand. And so let's get started. You will have 15 seconds to copy 5 figures. Remember, you're using your non-dominant hand. Are you ready? Stop. I'm sure you all did a wonderful job, and it didn't take the full 15 seconds for you to copy these symbols. During a normal simulation, you would be working with your peers and you would be able to debrief after each of the activities. But because of time constraints today, we are not going to be able to do that. But I would like you to think about some things. Do your figures look like these? Was this activity easy for you? Why or why not? Were you worried about how your work would compare to that of your peers? Oh, penmanship, that vanishing art of handwriting, but not here and not with us. You know, we have open house this evening, and I'm sure that you are very, very anxious to show your parents your exemplary work. I would like you to write the lowercase alphabet in manuscript. That's printing. Remember, we are still using our non-dominant hand. You will have 40 seconds to do so. Begin. Oh, Lakeisha, please correct your pencil grip so that you will be able to write a little bit better. Crystal, we want neat work and legible letters. I can see how hard you have been working on your letters. Stop. You did so well with the manuscript that I would like you now to write the uppercase alphabet in cursive. Remember, again, you are using your non-dominant hand. You may begin. Marissa, if you try hard enough, you will be able to complete this assignment on time. Oh, think about this. Won't your parents be thrilled to be able to see your work hanging up with all of your peers? Stop. How did you feel while doing this task? Was manuscript or cursive more difficult for you? You all know the letter formation, so what caused that difficulty? This activity simulates a problem with handwriting caused by the lack of automaticity in letter formation. You were asked to use a non-dominant hand in order to experience the frustration students may feel. Handwriting is not functional until letter formation has become automatic. Think of your students with the B, D, P, G. Signs of this problem, which is sometimes referred to as dysgraphia, might include slow and laborious writing, frequent self-corrections, and write-overs. Lack of automaticity with letter formation interferes with a student's written expression. Students may have a wonderful imagination and ideas and thoughts, but if the automaticity is limited, the effort that they will put forth may inhibit what they are going to put down on paper. Oh, in preparation for our test tomorrow, it's very important that you know the definition of dyslexia. We will be taking some notes for you to use while you are studying this evening. Remember, you will need to write the definition verbatim. Are you ready to begin? Please remember to use your non-dominant hand. Oh, and by the way, while taking these verbatim notes, you will be asked to substitute a plus sign for the letter A, an X for the letter D, and a dollar sign for the letter E. So if I was to spell bread, it would be BR dollar sign plus sign X. Let's begin. Dyslexia is a specific learning disability. That is neurobiological in origin. It is characterized by difficulties with accurate and/or fluent word recognition. And by poor spelling and decoding abilities. We will stop there with the definition due to our time constraints today, but let's check. How did you do? Did you complete the task or did you just give up? Did you employ some type of strategy to make the task a little easier? Were you still on the first part of the definition when I was completing the last section? Did it make you feel anxious if you were able to see what your peers were doing? Note-taking is easy. All you need to do is to be able to hear and retain information, listen and understand concepts, spell effortlessly, deal with unfamiliar terms, write or type quickly, and quickly connect new information with past experiences or knowledge, and do it all simultaneously. We will go through an easy spelling test, but I will do extremely fast, Christine. Is that okay?
I think we need to not do spelling. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's 11 and we have a few, I've cut out some slides, which I will send people, but I don't think we can do the spelling. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Show them.
So the easy spelling test would have been the long E sound, and some of the things to remember in this is how we develop spelling test and what's important in developing certain patterns that we're reviewing, exchanging papers, making things that if we all get 100, we will go out for recess. That anxiety that occurs when you hear things from a teacher like that, or if you just worked a little bit harder or studied more. Being dyslexic, hearing something like that, no one studied as long or as hard as I did. And for a teacher to say, if you just tried harder, was so defeating. Those were just some of the takeaways. And then to actually have your work put up for everyone to be able to see. So thank you.
Okay, so we just have a few more slides. We will answer a few questions. So this simulation should have given you just a taste of the feeling that it is to be trying to do something that is difficult in a classroom. And imagine if you're doing it in a classroom where other people are doing it easily. So when a child is struggling with reading, how do you know if it's dyslexia? You have to have a diagnosis. An evaluation by a qualified educational psychologist or a neuropsychologist is required to diagnose dyslexia. And I saw someone saying in the chat that their state did not allow dyslexia. Actually, the national government has said that dyslexia can be used in the schools, and your school's just behind. So effective treatment. The best treatment for dyslexia is a multisensory structured language instruction delivered in combination with appropriate accommodations. And the programs have to be done by a teacher who's thoroughly trained in the program being used. If somebody's just had a brief overview, they're probably not going to be able to present that program well, and the students will suffer. So what is multisensory structured language teaching? It includes simultaneous visual, auditory, kinesthetic, tactile. You see the word, you hear it, you trace it, you feel how it feels to write it. It needs to be systematic and cumulative. It needs to include phonemic awareness, the sounds, as well as the phonics that go with the sound, and paced according to mastery. It does not work if we say, well, this is what we did last week, and so next week we're on to the next thing, regardless of whether you have it or not. It needs to teach sound, syllable types, and spelling rules, and progress to morphology, which is the parts of words like prefixes, roots, and suffixes. Syntax and semantics needs to be delivered individually or in a small group to somebody who is dyslexic. Are there benefits to dyslexia? The research is unclear. Some preliminary research shows that dyslexics may have different and stronger visual spatial processing skills. Dyslexics seem to be overrepresented among successful entrepreneurs, and a number of those successful entrepreneurs say that they see themselves consistently as seeing the big picture rather than the parts, and that they also see different ways to solve a problem than anyone else in the room, and that this is part of their success. Most important things for you to take away from the simulation are that people with dyslexia are of average to above average intelligence. They can learn to read with the proper instruction, which is intensive, systematic, multisensory instruction in a small group. Training on assistive technology is essential. We didn't talk about that, but you can't just hand somebody assistive technology and expect them to master it. And people with dyslexia can be highly successful adults. So the Experienced Dyslexia Simulation is available from PBIDA. It's available for community groups, for parent-teacher organizations, as an in-service for teachers, administrators, and other educational staff. You can email us at dyslexia@pbida.org if you want information about it. Some resources. We gave you a page of resources. We suggest you check out our website and the International Dyslexia Association website. Email us and join our email list so that you find out about events that we are doing. Become a member of the International Dyslexia Association. That gives you discounts on not just what we do in Pennsylvania, but anything done through any branch of the International Dyslexia Association. It also gives us strength when we go to legislatures and other people to show that we are a stronger organization. Don't forget to save the date for our fall conference, which I think is going to be really fabulous this year. Thank you so much for being here.